Welcome to Beauty with Lane. I'm your host, Helena, and I'm a content creator and certified hairstylist. I'll be spilling all the tea on the most shocking stories you've ever heard, the best beauty tips, relationship advice, and so much more. Get your mugs ready, everybody, because we're about to sip some serious tea. Hello, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of Beauty with Lane. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I hope your day has been going beautifully. I hope that it's sunnier than it is here because, did the sun just come out? I'm literally looking out the window right now. Last time I checked, it was actually raining and storming, and now I can start to see a blue sky, which is amazing because the weather really does affect my mood, and I'm very easily influenced by whether it's super cloudy or sunny, and it's something that I'm actively working on all the time. But yeah, I'm really happy to see that the sun is out. So before we get started, I just wanted to kind of preface and let you guys know what this episode is going to be about and what it's titled. So today we are covering the craziest neighbor stories ever. And again, I haven't read these stories, so I am excited to see what we're gonna find. I'm sure that people have some really crazy stories out there. I actually forgot to even think about the stories that I've experienced. I'm really gonna have to go through because I have a couple of crazy neighbor stories. I mean, from dog fighters to the girl. I'm not going to be naming names and places, but we're going to get into it. We're going to get into all the tea very soon. But before we get into all of those stories, I did want to let you guys know that we're going to be switching up the flow of the podcast a little bit and just see what works and what doesn't, because I want to get you guys more involved, and I want to be asking you guys questions and see what y'all are learning, what you're doing, and that way we can kind of bounce off of each other and learn and get inspired from each other. Because today I was actually thinking that the reason that I love watching vlogs so much from other people, maybe even more than just watching traditional TV, is because I can look at other people's lives and implement habits that I never thought about before that I absolutely love. And so I think I just love watching simple vlogs because I see people's routines and things that they're doing that I'm not, that I could be doing to help improve my life, and I just love it. So I think that we have a lot to learn from each other. So the flow of this podcast from now on, I don't know how long this is going to last. We're going to see what you guys think about it as well. But every week I want to talk about something that I loved, something I learned, something I read, something new I tried, and a little life update. So every week I'll be adding question box to my Instagram page, which if you guys are not following it already, it is at Beauty with Lane. And you guys can go there and answer these questions as well, so we can all glean from each other. So next week I'll be reading your answers. Also, if you're watching this podcast episode on my YouTube channel, hello. And 2021 is the year that we stop apologizing for the way that we look. So I'm not going to apologize, but I am going to mention it. So last night I was so tired. I never, ever, ever just wear my hair out naturally. And I decided, you know what? I'm just going to go to sleep with it wet and see what we wake up with. And today I was outside quite a lot, and I'll get into that update in a minute, but I got rained on, and my natural hair is actually a lot wavier than I thought that it was. Because I never ever let it dry naturally. I always brush it immediately after getting out of the shower. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm kind of vibing. It's not as curly now as it was when I woke up because I've been in the rain and I've been playing with it. And also I took a fat nap. Okay, I'm not a napper. I have huge FOMO. I have the biggest fear of missing out on anything, so my body physically does not let me sleep. But if you guys have been following me on my personal Instagram, which is helena.ciburca, I just have been so tired, and I mentioned this, this second trimester exhaustion is almost as bad as my first trimester exhaustion, and I think that our baby girl is going through something right now. She's definitely growing a lot, because I can feel her doing entire dance routines inside of my belly. And last night Andre and I were watching, and her elbow was just like, or something was just going across my entire stomach. And keep in mind, I am only like 25 weeks, so this little girl is already like crazy active, which my mom said that when I was born, her doctor said that she never saw like another baby as curious and as active as me. Like, I literally came out with my eyes opened. Okay, that doesn't happen. So I just like came out of the womb very curious. I was like looking around the room, and if I recall, I didn't even like cry for quite a while. Like, I was just really intrigued. I was like, who do you be? You don't look like my dad. So yeah, I was just I was a crazy one, and I have a feeling that our little girl is going to be very active, which I'm super excited about because I love adventures. I love just going, and I'm pretty hyper. So it's nice to know that my little baby so far is on the same track. But yeah, so I took a really long nap today, and it felt great. Although as soon as I woke up, I felt like I was in another dimension, because I feel like if you go to sleep at 12 and you wake up at 2, it's like you close your eyes for 5 minutes and then you're in a different part of the day. And it just kind of freaks me out. And I also, when I like lay my head down, I immediately feel guilty. And I'm like, there are so many things that I need to be doing right now that I'm not. And yeah, so I took a nap for the first time. I don't even think I took a nap in my first trimester. I think this might be this is my second nap, I think, in my entire pregnancy, because as I said, I'm just not a napper. Okay, and so for our life update, what we've been working on is just like the house nonstop. So if you guys listened to my last episode, I was telling you about how like we bought a house back in October and we weren't really like planning on finishing it anytime soon. But then I had my surprise pregnancy and I made an episode all about that. And we decided that, okay, we should like hunker down and finish the house. So we have a team over there putting down our tile. Me and Andre, well, mostly Andre. He has been, actually only Andre, he has been painting our house for us. And what have I been doing? I've been providing the snacks, the vibes, and I've been like transferring stuff from our house that we're in right now, the one that you currently see. I've been like slowly packing up each room, and like every time we go out to the house, I take like 6 bags and like suitcases and stuff like that. So I have been the designated like cleaner / packer, and I've been getting in good workouts too. I'm not gonna lie, I've been going up and down these flights of stairs like nonstop, and I'm actually sore from like carrying stuff. So it's been great. So that's kind of just like a house update. We've just been putting in tile and painting, nothing like super major yet, but we should be moving out by August 31st. I hope the house will be done by then and we'll be able to move in, and then I will make like a video of moving in and showing you guys our new house. So keep your eyes open for that. Oh, and like don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss out on that video. So my absolute best part of the week / last week, because I wasn't able to make an episode last week, was we got to go see our little baby, and she's officially 6 months old. Is that how you would like say that? I'm 6 months pregnant and I got to see her face. It was so magical because I did have one other 3D scan, but she was like so little when they did it. I think I was like 20 weeks, and she kept like staying with her face towards my back. So they couldn't get like an accurate representation of what she looked like. I could only see the side profile. And this time she was like facing the camera and she was all cuddled up and cozy with her hands next to her face. And me and Andre got to experience that together and see our daughter. And she was so beautiful. And now I feel like I can actually start to think about what she looks like, and like her little personality and her little kicks are coming through. So I'm getting to know her more and more, and I just love her more every day. And I couldn't be more thankful for my family. So that has been such a nice experience. And that is the most important life update that I can offer you guys this week. Okay, so now it's time to get into something that I loved this week. And not only have I loved this product for a week, but I have been loving it for a very long time. Okay, so I get the True Skin Foundation by Catrice. It is so affordable, you guys. I think it's the most affordable foundation that I've ever gotten before. And it has hyaluronic acid in it, and it's like one Nova? If you're watching the YouTube video, then you can see my big old pup behind us. She's in the window, and I just saw like a shadow go by in the window, and I was like, what was that? Anyway, back to our scheduled content. So True Skin Catrice foundation, if you haven't tried it and you like to use like drugstore foundation, this is the one. This is the one, you guys. It has like medium to high coverage. I don't even use concealer anymore or powder. I just literally put powder on my eyes so it doesn't crease. I have very acne prone skin, very sensitive. I'm constantly breaking out. And I'm telling you guys, back in high school and like at the beginning of college, I was investing in all sorts of like foundations, expensive ones, to try to like even out my skin and make it better. This foundation works better than the Dior foundation that I've used, the Too Faced makeup that I've used, like even Clinique. I feel like it beats Clinique. So if you guys haven't tried Catrice products yet, try it. You're gonna love it. I did not like their other foundations, but the True Skin is definitely a big winner. Okay, next up, something that I've read. So I'm reading a couple of books right now, but one that I've been loving is called The End of Mental Illness by Dr. Daniel Amen, and I recently started listening to his podcast. Chef's kiss, you guys. This man is like the #1 psychiatrist in America, and he just has so much knowledge and insight of the brain, and he has like a new approach to psychiatry. Like he actually, did you guys know that when they look into mental illness, many times they just like start prescribing treatments based on your symptoms, but they never actually look at the actual organ inside of your brain. And his clinic specifically looks at all of their patients and they like examine them. But basically his whole book is about how you can like help cure mental illness by changing your lifestyle, your diet, your social circle, and your spirituality. And it just kind of shows like how all of those are intertwined. And I've been loving it so far. I'm only like a fourth of the way through, but I'll let you guys know when I finish it. But I've really liked that so far. So that's what I'm reading. And if we get into things that I learned, I could tell you guys so many things that I learned from this guy, but basically sugar. I mean, we all knew that sugar is not good for you, but he'll tell you a lot about like the things that our culture has made normal in our diets that are literally affecting our brain and the way that it thinks and the way that we react and our hormones and everything. And it's just been a really interesting read. So that goes hand in hand with what I've like learned this week. Another thing that I learned this week is I know how to paint a crib. So my husband showed me how to like sand down a crib, and we are currently painting our daughter's crib. It's our nighttime activity. So that's been really fun. It's not the best. We're actually going to go through and do it a second time because it came out with like a bunch of little paintbrush lines, but we got some sponges. We did some further research, and now we should be able to make like a brand new crib for our little girl. And I've really been enjoying taking like old furniture because this crib is like it's 10 years old, and it was actually my sister's crib for her first daughter. And like, if you would have told me when I was 13 that when she laid her daughter down in that crib, that one day I would lay my daughter down in that crib, I think I would have freaked out. So it's been really special and emotional, just like getting that crib ready and just thinking about our daughter being in there and like how life changes and how beautiful life is. It's been really nice. It's crazy that just painting a crib can make you think that way, because I'm always looking in for the deeper meaning of things and I can always find it. And yeah, that's something that I learned how to do this week and something that I've been cherishing. Just like that quality time with my husband, doing mom and dad things and getting our daughter's crib ready. I see that I messed up the flow of the podcast. The last one that I talked about was something new that I tried, which was painting a crib. It's something that I've learned this week and every single week of my life. Something that I've actually really been putting into practice since the springtime is just not taking things personally. It takes so much energy to take things personally. it takes so much more energy to take things personally than to look objectively at a situation and think, okay, why is this person treating me this way? Does it actually have something to do with me, or does it have everything to do with them? And most of the time, the chances are that it has everything to do with them and not with you. And I'm not saying that that's a general rule of thumb, because it's definitely not. Some people are just mean and nasty and like want to hurt you. But even in that situation, if you look into it, it's not a you problem. It's mostly a them problem. But not taking things personally is going to save you so much time, heartbreak, and like energy. You have no idea. So like one example I can give you is like when I text someone, I love to receive text messages back. And I think one of my biggest pet peeves is when people just text me without saying like, hi, how are you first? And they just like go first, like straight into what they want to talk about. I'm definitely more of like I don't know, I wouldn't say like emotional, but I'm very in tune with like my feelings. For example, if I text someone and they leave me on red or they leave me on seen, I used to get so upset about that, and sometimes I still do, but the way that I've changed my thought process is the chances of that person reading my messages and deliberately ignoring them, and like the way my brain thinks is like, oh, they just don't care about me, like they don't care enough to reply, is like a really big lie that I'm telling myself, because the people that I'm texting do love me and they do want to talk to me. It's just in that moment, they're probably doing something and they can't reply, or they need time to like think and formulate a response. And every time that I get like worked up about it, I'm like, I can't believe they left me on red. They write me like with such a personal and like nice response that shows me that they know me and they care about me. And it just goes to show like we can't take things personally, because everybody has their own stuff going on internally and externally, and you never know what people are actually going through. So taking things personally most of the time is not necessary, and it actually causes more damage to ourselves than to other people. So yeah, I guess my advice there would just be to always treat people with kindness and give them the benefit of the doubt, which is something that I'm actively working on all of the time. And yeah, just like do your best to treat people with kindness and love, because the chances are like when we take things personally, people don't mean them in that way. We just happen to like have our eyes focused on only ourselves, and we just think, oh, they're treating me that way because this and that and that. But the truth is everybody's thinking the same thing, and they're all concerned about themselves. And that's why we shouldn't take things personally and like just really treat each other with kindness. So yeah, that's something that I've learned this week, and not only this week, but it's something I've been learning for the past months, like the past few months, that has really stuck out to me. And I thought that I would share that with you guys just in case like you struggle with the same thing. All right, so that goes over basically a life update, things that I've learned, things that I loved, things that I've tried. And now it's your turn. So go to the Beauty with Lane Instagram page. I will have boxes prepared for you every Sunday, and you'll be able to go through and answer them, and then I will start sharing some of your responses on the podcast so that we can learn from each other. I'm really excited about this segment of the podcast. I just came up with it like right before I started recording, and I'm really excited to like connect with you guys more and hear about what you guys are learning and trying so that we can be inspired from each other. Okay, so now it is time to get into the craziest neighbor stories and the worst neighbor stories ever. So I have a couple of stories. Mine are not like super dramatic or anything. I didn't have like absolutely horrible neighbors. Growing up, I actually had a really solid group of friends, and all of our neighbors had kids my age growing up. And so that was really nice, and I'm really thankful for that. But there was this one lady who lived across the street from us. And as I told you guys before, my parents have a foundation. So we used to have like a bunch of like kids come over to our house for like kids clubs, and there would sometimes be some noise. And one day, when my family and I were visiting back in the States with some family, some kids had come to our house unbeknownst that we were in the States, and they were calling for our names from the front gate. And the neighbor who lived across the street from us was like this old bitter woman who always wore one of those hats with fake hair. If you guys know what I'm talking about, then yeah, you'll know that she was pretty kooky. So it was like one of those little headband hats, and then they had like the fake little frosted tips on the top. It was like fake hair. It was very, very strange. But anyway, a lot of people were wearing those back in like 2006 in Romania. So I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying, I'm giving you guys a little bit of like some background. And so these kids were calling for my parents' names from the front gate, but we were not home. And we were told by my neighbors later that this lady opened the window and like yelled out and said that like the Brewskis are dead. And I was like, oh my gosh, who does that? You know, it's like bitter ladies and bitter men. And normally old people are like, they have the stereotype. Well, some of them do, for being nice. But I was just shocked when I heard that. Like, who says that? Terrible. And Andre was telling me one day, like when he was younger, he grew up in an apartment complex with like a park in the center, and they would always go out and play on the slide. And there was this old lady who hated the kids playing, which it's a park. Of course there are going to be kids playing. And one night she literally went out with black tar and poured it all over the slide, and I think maybe even on the swings and stuff, and the kids could never play on that park again. And I'm like, what is wrong with people? You know, a little bit of noise is fine. It's absolutely okay. Live your life. Have fun. Why would I want to like step on a child's happiness? Like literally for going down a slide and having fun and screaming during the day. I mean, that's just normal kid stuff. So to spread tar on a slide? Ridiculous. And then those are just a couple of stories of like weird growing up with like weird neighbors. But as an adult, so when Andre and I first got married, we moved into like this little apartment complex right outside of town. And we had a couple of questionable neighbors there. I'm not gonna lie. I don't keep in touch with any of them, but I'm definitely not gonna give any names or anything. But I remember Andre and I were on the top floor. So it was kind of like a duplex style. So there was the downstairs and the upstairs, and we had the upstairs floor. And I would do laundry out on the balcony. And sometimes when the wind blew and I was gone, my clothes would sometimes fall into her yard. I guess it frustrated her a lot, and I would see my stuff in her yard, but I couldn't go get it. And so I would text her and be like, hey, is there any way that I can get like my clothes back? And she texted me and she was like, oh no, sorry, your clothes got infested by lizards and I can't give you your stuff back. I'm like, what? So I lost some good items in that backyard due to lizard infestation. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then one of our other neighbors, like we were talking to him and he was talking about like how he used to be a dog fighter, which is horrible. And when we heard that, we were like, dude, that's awful. You shouldn't do that. He was like, oh yeah, I don't do that anymore. But he had just gotten a pit bull and he was raising it, and it was like, you're very questionable. Yeah, I have some other stories from that apartment complex about like some stuff that happened to us that were pretty traumatic, but I'm not going to get into that this episode. Maybe I'll make another episode about that, but I am glad that we don't live there anymore because it wasn't really my vibe. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm really thankful that we were able to leave that apartment complex and be in this house, because here I met one of my greatest friends and we've had great experiences with the neighbors. We haven't had any problems. Everybody's really, really nice. And to our next house where we're moving, we're gonna have really nice neighbors as well. So I can't complain. I'm really happy with my neighbor situation now, and I feel like it can only go up from here. So let's see if I can relate to any of these stories that we're about to read, or if we're going to be 100% horrified. Okay, so let's get this party started. Story number 1. This post is inspired by my sister. She lives a block away from me and is in the Bermuda Triangle of crazy neighbors. 2 of her neighbors are in a feud, and she is literally caught in the middle. One time she woke up to what she thought was an earthquake. Apparently, her neighbor next to her thought that the best way to get at the upstairs neighbor was to smash her foot on the ground consistently, sending vibrations to the upper floor. Meanwhile, my sister is literally thinking that there's an earthquake. That is until she heard incoherent screaming. And this is just one of many stories.
Oh my gosh. Normally, it seems like it's worse to live on the bottom floor. Like, I would always prefer living on the top floor. So if that lady was smashing her feet that bad on, like, the bottom floor, then that's pretty intense. She had the power of 10,000 waterfalls to be able to do that. I don't know why people are just so rude to each other. I mean, if you don't get along with somebody, my opinion is to just like let it go and move on and just be nice to them. It's just like, you don't have to be involved with anyone if you don't want to. That's up to you. And then if people are terrible, involve the authorities. Like, that's just how I proceed. That's what I do. I feel like retaliation is just stupid. Oh well. Story number 2. My neighbor gardens at night. He cuts his grass every Tuesday at 4 p.m., rain or shine, makes his wife sit in a lawn chair to watch him whenever he washes their vehicle, and sucks up rainwater from the gutter using a shop vac whenever it rains. What the heck is that? He's pleasant and respectful, but man, is he weird. Hey, he's got a set schedule, okay? He's got to cut his grass. Can you even cut the grass when it's wet? We have a push lawnmower, and every time the grass is even like remotely damp, we literally cannot push it. So, and the fact that he's asking his wife to like watch him whenever he washes the car, I mean, hey, if that's your thing, to me, if I was cleaning the car, I would be like, hey, Andre, why don't you pull up like a sponge and help me? I wouldn't like pull up a chair and just watch. Well, at least he's not a terrible guy. He actually sounds like a fun vibe. Story number 3. Growing up, I had an old next door neighbor who never got married and had 2 Shih Tzus. She would sit on her porch all day and talk loudly on the phone and cackle like a witch. Not even joking about the cackling. She hated men. She would constantly complain about my dad smoking in front of our own home. She would tell me and my friend to never trust men and never get married to one. I remember being told that she was engaged to some guy when she was younger, but she ended their relationship for some reason. They never got married. She was also super nosy and she loved to gossip. Fast forward a couple of years, my family was selling the home and she put on the radio in her bathroom at a really loud volume with the window open while the open house for our home was going on. She definitely did this on purpose because she never ever did this before and she was gone the whole day, so we couldn't ask her to turn it down. Luckily, the house did sell. Last I heard, she moved back east to live with her sister or something like that. Okay, people complaining about other people doing stuff in their own home are on a different level. It's like, it has nothing to do with you. If the dad is making his own choices, like when people kind of make like backhanded comments about you in front of you without addressing you, it's such a weird thing because you're like, what am I supposed to say to that? Like, you're not really talking about me, but you're talking about me right in front of me. I feel like I would confront and be like, okay, this is my life and my choice, so I don't understand why you're acting this way. But Andre was listening to this story and he was like, if they wanted that person gone, then why would she put the music on to try to not sell the house? But my theory is she probably just didn't want to have new neighbors. She probably just wanted to be all by her lonesome there. The cackling would probably give me nightmares, not gonna lie. All right, this one is short and sweet, and it says, she accused my mom of stealing my dad from her years ago when they didn't even know her at all. Sounds like a classic case of the kooks. That's what we call the kooks around these parts. Like, she obviously has some sort of issues. Some sort of mental issues. Maybe we can get her a copy of the Dr. Daniel Amen book and get a sis helped out. This woman had a baby a week before my mother had me, so they used to talk a lot. My older brother had a lot of health problems that my mother would usually talk about, worrying I would have them. Later, that woman would tell her son that he had all these same problems and started medicating him. She worked at the hospital and treating her son like a baby until he was 9. Fast forward, we're 16. I go to the store and I see that woman. She recognizes me and starts talking to me and offers money to go out with her son. I say no. She starts screaming at me that I'm discriminating my best friend ever because of his condition. Spoiler alert, there's no condition. And that she would tell my mom. I tell her to do it. She goes to my house and tells my mother I punched her son. My mother decides to ignore her because I tell her what happened. The woman tries again 3 or 4 times to pay me to go out with her son because I have some nice genetics and she would like to have nice grandkids. We never get to hear about her again. Her family took her to the mental hospital. Oh my gosh. That sounds just like the book that I read a few summers ago. Oh, Everything, where the mom's just like, okay, well, that's a spoiler. If you don't want to hear the spoiler of the book, then skip ahead like 30 seconds. But like this lady has some sort of issue where she thinks that her kid is sick and it's not, and she's medicating him, which one is terrible for their body. I mean, some people don't even like to take ibuprofen. Like, why would you want to put people on a treatment? And then also to just straight up lie to the mom about being punched in the face, discriminating, having nice genetics. I feel like there's a lot there. And I feel like when I hear stories like this, I'm like, how does that even happen? Like, under what circumstance do you start lying to someone's face? Just like a blatant lie. Not even like she didn't even get in a tiny little fight with her son or even see him. Like, how do you go to somebody and just lie? Like, make something completely up? I don't know. They say the best lies have a little bit of truth in them, but some of these people are just kooky, man. She was effectively banned from calling 911 and was charged more than once with frivolous calls to the police, a living embodiment of the boy who cried wolf. Jeez, can you imagine being banned from calling 911? I remember I've only called 911 twice in my life, and one time it was just for having like, I saw a big semi truck just sitting on the side of the road and it kind of looked like it was in a little fender bender, but nobody was in it, and I just thought like since it was blocking the road that I should call the police so that they could like get it sorted out and stuff. And I was so scared to call. I was like, what if they say that this isn't like a worthy call or something? Like, I was super panicked about calling. And then when there actually was an emergency and I called 911, I was going through like shock. And when I called, I was so calm, and I don't even know how I remembered the address and everything. I was just like, yes, this is what's going on. This is the address. This is my name. This is my phone number. Goodbye. And then I was like, how did I do that? And then I went into shock right after. And if I would have waited like 3 more minutes, I probably wouldn't have been able to talk to the police. So anyway, yeah, being banned from calling 911. I could never. I need 911, okay? I think it's a great thing to have 911 to be able to call for someone to help. I never want to be banned from there. So don't call. Don't be the boy who cried wolf. Only call in real emergencies. Okay, sometimes I just read like the first sentence of the stories, and here you go, guys. This is short and sweet. My neighbor was chopping down the weeds in the backyard with a set of nunchucks and accidentally smacked himself in the face and now has a broken tooth. Excuse me? Who cuts down their weeds with a set of nunchucks? Only Napoleon Dynamite would do that. But nunchucks are really dangerous. I'm pretty sure they're considered a weapon. And like smacking your nose so hard that you break it. Jeez, man. Just get like a little weed whacker or something next time. When I was little, we had these neighbors that used to fight all the time. I remember one night we were watching them through the windows because we heard fighting outside. They were arguing on the street, and the woman got into the car and went to drive away, but the guy stood in front of the car to stop her. She ended up running him over in the driveway. Okay, well, first off, I'd like to hope that the person who got ran over was away. Secondly, seeing like something like that sounds really traumatic. And then thirdly, that's crazy. Crazy. I remember one time when I was little, I heard someone yelling like outside, and I started crying, and I asked my dad to come with me to just go check on our neighbors, and he did. I think I was like 9 years old, and we went to go check to make sure like everybody was fine. And everybody was fine. They were actually just wrestling and like having fun in the backyard, but it was like midnight, so I was freaked out. But I can't imagine seeing people fight. I think I would just like freak out. Oh, this is what I learned this week. People get into fight or flight mode, but there's also freeze mode. And I think that I go into freeze mode quite often. If I saw somebody fighting, and I don't know if I would go into fight, flight, or freeze mode. I hope I never have to see anybody fight, but if they do, they're gonna catch these elbows. All right. I am an adult living in my childhood home. My dad sold it to a family member who then gave it to us. As a child, I used to be friends with a neighbor's daughter that was the same age and grade as me. We had a falling out in like 7th grade, and my family moved shortly after to a new house in the same town, so we didn't really see each other anymore. Fast forward to me leaving my house a few months ago. My neighbor's daughter, who is now almost 40, is visiting her parents and is in the driveway. She sees me come out of my house and ducks down behind her car trying to hide. If you're 40 years old and can't confront somebody, I feel like that's something that we got to start working on, okay? We need to start saying what we mean, talking to people. If there's a problem, just talk it out. If it was in 7th grade and you're now 40, I feel like you could either laugh about it or just be like, hey, you know, that really hurt me back then. Or just like forget about it altogether. You don't have to hide. I don't know. I'm a confrontational person. I don't love confrontation, but I do love solving problems. And so if there is a problem, if anyone ever has a problem with me, I'm always just like, hey, is there something that you want to talk about? And then chances are most of the time they want to talk about it. And you can get over the whole situation within a day. Or like most of the time when people are upset and I talk to them, it takes like 5 or 10 minutes for people to get over it, like maximum an hour, and most of the time it's a misunderstanding. So like I said, don't take things personally and just try to solve the issue, because it's not you against the person, it's you against the problem together. So let's solve the problem, you know? Maybe I should be a psychologist. I don't know. I'll think about it. When I was a kid, a guy who lived a few houses away from me was being watched by police for suspicions of drug dealing, money laundering, etc. One Saturday morning, my dad was about to leave for work when the police were at our door and demanded everyone to stay inside. There were about 7 or 8 police cars barricading our street, and that neighbor was being arrested after threats to shoot at the police. The guy was operating a whole meth lab in his basement. Guys, I forgot to say something. So my sister used to live in Tennessee when I was younger, and when we would go and visit her, I remember that the police came to that neighborhood and they shut down a meth lab. Somebody like 10 houses down from my sister, or like 15 houses down from my sister, was running a whole meth lab in their tiny little Tennessee neighborhood. Excuse me? Jeez. Okay, let's read a couple of more stories before we close out this episode. Back in May, a SWAT team broke into my neighbor's house after a 3-hour standoff. Supposedly, the police were investigating a serious crime and asked for 2 specific people to come out with their hands up. After watching from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. from my front porch, which was inside of the investigation tape, it turns out no one was home. It was quite a shame because I was hoping to see some action. I'm really confused. So they had a 3-hour standoff, but nobody was there? I'm really confused. I feel like we're going to need some more information for that one. This one is my dad's story. He had a bird when he was very young. My dad came not from the richest family. He lived on a farm. He used to let the bird out at night so the bird could fly somewhere and return in the morning. Someday, his neighbor poisoned him. My dad loved his bird and couldn't afford a new one. The neighbor said that it was because he annoyed him because he flew to his house at the nights. My dad couldn't even call the police or something because at that time it was still okay to kill a pet. It was just an animal. It was okay to kill someone else's pet? That's awful. That's really, really sad. You can't hurt animals. You can't hurt other people's animals. You can't hurt your own animals. That's terrible. I wish that we had a funny neighbor story, not like a very, very depressing one. Okay, you guys, this is the final story of the episode, so here we go. Me and my roommates currently share some walls with a girl who has decided to use her time being unemployed, which we know because we can hear all of her phone calls, to audition with various musical instruments, opera singing, and yodeling of all things. Can she sing? Of course not. Can she play any of the instruments well? Not in the slightest. She can't even tune them properly. Can she yodel? Who's to say? Proper yodeling is equally annoying as improper yodeling in my book. And that's it. That's all this person wrote, but that's really funny. I wonder, okay, so I know that I'm the singing neighbor. Like, I'm constantly singing and I love listening to music. Luckily, there's pretty, like, a lot of space between us and our next neighbor, so I'm, like, pretty sure they can't hear me, at least all of the time. But that's really, really funny. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I got a kick out of it. I had a really good time recording it. I thought some of these stories were really funny. Some of them were more concerning, but I just love doing story time episodes. Although I do want to do kind of like a topic episode where we dive into like different topics and discuss like different ideologies and stuff like that. So if you guys have any recommendations on something that you would want to hear my thoughts on, or if there's something that you feel like we could all learn about, I would love to hear what topics you have to propose. So definitely leave those down in the comments below or send me a DM on my Instagram. My Instagram again is @beautywithlane or helena.tiburca, Tiburca. But I will have those on the YouTube video and in the description. So if you want to find me on Instagram, you can find me there and then write me your topic ideas. Don't forget to leave a review on the podcast because it really helps. And if you want to let me know what you thought of the podcast, where you think I can improve, or what you think I should do next, you can do that in the review. Give it a 5-star rating if you like it. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe and like the video so that you can always stay up to date with new podcast episodes and other types of videos coming out soon. Like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I did recording it. I can't wait for next week's episode. And that's all for today, everybody. That was the tea. I'll see you guys in my next episode. Bye.